Before we begin, leave your honest opinion in the comments. What is Manchester City lacking in order to regain the same dominance over the Premier League as in past seasons? And if you're a Citizens supporter, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay tuned, because the coming weeks promise to shake the very foundations of the Etihad. Amid a European summer filled with restructuring and busy backroom dealings, Manchester City took a quiet yet bold step. While the media spotlight focused on big-name signings, million-pound contracts, and glamorous destinations, Pep Guardiola and his coaching staff were investing in what's unseen, the future. A name you might never have heard of, but one that could very well shape the club's next chapters, Mohamedou Sangaré. At just 18 years of age, the young forward from Paris Saint-Germain has chosen the Etihad as his new home. And it wasn't due to a lack of options. Several top European clubs were in the race, but Guardiola's sporting project spoke louder. According to transfer expert Fabrizio Romano, City have already finalized the agreement with Sangaré and the contract is signed. A rare gem, meticulously polished in PSG's youth ranks, where he stood out with 33 goals in 35 matches at under-19 level. That's right, an almost unbelievable average for someone still so raw. But hold on. Guardiola isn't about to throw the lad into the lion's den straight away. Sangaré is a long-term investment. The coaching staff is fully aware of that. He needs to mature, bulk up, and understand the rhythms of the Premier League. Still, the club can't hide its excitement. This move reveals something bigger. City are not just thinking about the next season. They have their sights on the next decade, and for that, youth is more valuable than fame. And while City were building a new chapter with Sangaré, another, more turbulent, storyline was unfolding behind the scenes. Morgan Gibbs White, one of the most sought-after players of last season after a standout campaign with Nottingham Forest, appeared to have slipped through Manchester's fingers. All signs pointed to the midfielder joining Tottenham. The London side moved quickly, triggered his £60 million release clause, and booked his medicals. End of the line? Not quite. In a surprising twist, allegations emerged that Tottenham had initiated talks with the player without formal permission from Nottingham Forest. Backroom chaos erupted. Lawyers were brought in, communications between the clubs were cut off, and suddenly, what seemed like a done deal turned into uncertainty. Now, City, who had previously bowed out of the race, are being mentioned again as potential suitors, albeit discreetly. The problem? Negotiation history with Evangelos Marinakis, the Forest owner. Complex, volatile, unpredictable. Guardiola and the club's top brass have shown they prefer to steer clear of sagas. Even so, the legal situation might open up an unexpected window, and for a player of Gibbs White's caliber, it might be worth reassessing. You, City fan, do you think the club should make a U-turn and try once more to bring in the midfielder now that the Tottenham deal is wobbling? Drop your opinion in the comments. But an elite squad isn't built on signings or near misses alone. Pep Guardiola also wants to trim the fat, literally. The manager has made it clear that working with an overstuffed squad is counterproductive. He prefers quality over quantity, and for that reason, players who were once seen as future stars are now heading towards the exit. Take James McAtee, for instance. He's practically out the door. The young talent is attracting interest from several clubs, including Crystal Palace, Newcastle, and even Bundesliga sides like Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund. City are willing to sell, and for a fee between $20 and $25 million, the deal could go through swiftly. It's a logical exit without drama, but not every case is that simple. Jack Grealish, who arrived as a marquee signing and was the most expensive transfer in the club's history at the time, is now going through a rough patch. His performances have been inconsistent, and while City would love to profit from a sale, his market value, still very high, makes any deal tricky. The most realistic scenario? A loan move to help him rebuild, technically. Another man in limbo is Calvin Phillips. Remember when he arrived from Leeds as one of England's most promising midfielders? Well, after lackluster loan spells at West Ham and Ipswich, his value has plummeted. There is interest. Everton, Fulham, and Palace are monitoring, but none are willing to pay the $20 million City are asking. A return to Leeds would be romantic, almost poetic, but highly unlikely. The club is fully focused on rebuilding to compete in the Premier League again. This squad clear-out shows Pep isn't playing around. He wants a team that functions, light, efficient, purposeful. And to achieve that, some names will have to go, even if they came at a high price. The Catalan coach understands that modern football demands flexibility, and sometimes that means letting go of players who simply didn't fit. But not everyone wants to leave. Some want to stay, and prove, once again, that they can still contribute at the highest level. One of those cases is Ilkay Gundogan. Ilkay Gundogan is one of those players who doesn't shout, he influences. Through gestures, through intelligence, through timing. At 34 years old, the German veteran could very well be easing into retirement, far from the heart of tactical decisions in a club that never stops moving. But he isn't. Gundogan is not the type to accept the final chapters of his career as a melancholic farewell. In fact, he might be writing the most meaningful one yet. The 2025-26 season could be his last in a Manchester City shirt, and he wants it to be unforgettable, not just on the pitch, but off it as well. To achieve this, he has completely overhauled his routine. He hired a personal nutritionist, replaced his meals with meticulously crafted dishes prepared by a private chef, cut sugar from his diet, even during the break between the end of the season and the Club World Cup. Is it obsession? No, it's legacy. That attitude hasn't gone unnoticed. Guardiola, who personally fought to bring him back when many believed his cycle was over, sees more than just a player in Gundogan. He sees a future manager, and that's not just speculation. The German already holds a UEFA B license and plans to obtain his UEFA A this year. Inside the club, internal conversations have already begun about keeping him on as a coaching assistant in the future, and perhaps even more than that, because Gundogan sees the game like few others. He isn't confined to his own space. He anticipates, organizes, leads. Amongst hungry youngsters and veterans who have already won everything, the midfielder has become the bridge between past and future. And perhaps, unknowingly, he is quietly shaping the tactical DNA of the post-Guardiola era. But that possible transition hasn't officially begun yet. For now, Gundogan remains a key piece of the squad, and his continued presence could be the missing link, combining experience, emotional stability, and continuity in the club's footballing philosophy. Guardiola knows it, and that's why, even in the face of overseas proposals like that from Galatasaray, the priority remains to keep the number 8 until the final breath of his contract. The question is, when Pep leaves, who will keep City's spirit alive? No one better than someone who has understood it from within. And a future in coaching isn't built by silent leaders alone. It requires structure, depth, pieces that can adapt when the system demands it. That's why, even with several players departing and others under observation, Manchester City continue to reinforce strategic areas. The first 4 summer signings have already arrived, and all follow a specific pattern: youth, versatility, and intensity. Ait-Nouri, for instance, is the kind of full-back who can slot into midfield when needed, something Guardiola loves. Cherki, known for his prodigious talent, can play in at least 3 attacking roles, and the Rangers players arrive as squad options but with room for development. What may seem like mere background movement is actually part of a greater plan. Guardiola is redrawing the spine of the team. The idea is simple but powerful: to have a modular squad, where everyone plays in more than one role, where no one is predictable, where, even with the departures of names like De Bruyne or Bernardo Silva, both nearing the end of their cycles, the tactical impact is minimal. Speaking of departures, Manchester City are also keeping a close eye on UEFA's financial calendar. The new financial fair play rules require precise maneuvering. The days of stockpiling players without justifying usage, minutes, and productivity are gone. That's why the decision to loan or sell less utilized players is just as strategic as signing a new star. This reshaping of the squad also reflects Pep Guardiola. Even if he doesn't say it publicly, there's a quiet sense within the Etihad that he's preparing the ground for something beyond his own tenure, as if he's tidying the house for its next owner, leaving behind not just a legacy of trophies, but also of structure, philosophy, and culture. And that takes us back to Sangar. Because Sangar is not just a prospect, he is a symbol of transition, of boldness, of belief in something that doesn't yet exist. The 33 goals he scored in PSG's youth system aren't just stats, they're signals. And Manchester City have no interest in waiting for another club to turn him into a star. They want to do that themselves. Now pause and think. Sangar arrives, Gundogan stays, McAtee departs. Gibbs White could still come. Grealish and Phillips are packing their bags. Guardiola trims the squad, but increases tactical density. None of this seems accidental. It feels like a paradigm shift, a new cycle, quiet but powerful, invisible to the untrained eye, but impossible to ignore when the results come. The future is built behind the scenes, and Manchester City has already begun to shape it, even if quietly. Because while the media remains focused on players and market values, the true foundations of the club's next phase are being laid far from the cameras. And all of this is part of a long-term strategy, where every piece has a specific function. What seemed like just a summer of adjustments is, in fact, revealing itself as the first stage of a deep transformation, and the main architect behind it all still goes by the same name, Pep Guardiola. Pep knows that time is running out, not just on the season's calendar, but within the natural cycle of his journey at the club. Even though there's no official announcement yet, no one inside the Etihad believes he'll be around for much longer. And that's precisely why everything is being built with continuity in mind. The arrival of promising talents, the bet on versatile players, the attempt to streamline the squad, the investment in technical staff, all of it bears the mark of a manager who doesn't want to leave a void behind when he goes. It's as if he's organizing a succession. And if you look closely, you'll notice that even the decision to keep Gundogan has a hidden reason. Because Guardiola doesn't just want to hand over the keys to a new manager. He wants to deliver a solid culture, a structured environment, a dressing room with ready-made leaders, and perhaps, deep down, even a quiet successor shaped in his image. Someone like Gundogan, who knows the system from the inside out. But there's another layer to this project. For years, Manchester City has been trying to break free from the dependency on big names. The multi-million-pound signings haven't stopped, but they've been refined. Today, the spending is more balanced, and the focus is on collective usefulness. That explains, for instance, why the club refused to pay the $70 million demanded for Gibbs White. It's not a matter of lacking funds. It's about having conviction. And curiously, now that the deal with Tottenham is in doubt, City's caution appears to have been rewarded with a second chance. Whether they seize it or not remains to be seen. But what we do know is that the strategy of avoiding toxic negotiations is still firmly in place. Marinakis, the owner of Nottingham Forest, is already known in the football world for his unpredictable behavior. And entering a game where the rules change halfway through isn't exactly City's style. From the outside, it might seem like the club missed an opportunity. But internally, the feeling is one of relief. The message is clear. Avoid instability, especially at a moment of restructuring. Meanwhile, other names are being monitored. Young talents from smaller leagues, players nearing the end of their contracts, South American prospects who could arrive for more modest fees. The objective? To renew without breaking, to rejuvenate without losing competitiveness. But today's football landscape demands more than just good signings. It demands management, planning, vision. The new financial fair play imposes limits that change the logic of the market. Hoarding players is no longer an option. Now, every signing must have purpose. Every salary must be balanced. That's why Manchester City wants to reduce the number of players in the first-team squad. Pep Guardiola has already made it clear that he doesn't like having to cut players from the matchday squad due to an excess of options. It's not just uncomfortable, it's counterproductive. It creates internal frustration. It slows down training intensity. It generates unnecessary noise. That's why cases like Calvin Phillips and Jack Grealish need to be resolved soon. It's no longer sustainable to keep expensive, underused players taking up space, both on the pitch and in the budget. What City wants now is something leaner, more agile, more streamlined. A squad of 22 or 23 players ready to play. No idle luxury. And this philosophy explains not only the current exits, but also the targeted arrivals. Mohamedou Sangar, for example, hasn't arrived to be an immediate solution. He's here to be molded, to learn, to integrate. He is the reflection of this new phase, an investment in perspective. But this future doesn't rely solely on names. It depends on structure. That's why City has also strengthened its backroom staff. The arrival of Pepijn Lijnders, former assistant to Jurgen Klopp, is no coincidence. It's strategic. Lijnders is a scholar, a modern coach, a professional accustomed to high performance and high-pressure environments. His presence alongside James French, another name who joined this summer, gives the club a more diverse technical foundation and a broader margin for transition should Pep leave the club soon. Everything is being thought out in advance, and that's what separates a football club from a winning project. On paper, it might look like just another summer transfer window, but in reality, what's happening at the Etihad is silent engineering, an invisible rebuild, a new city being quietly sketched out, piece by piece. And if all goes according to plan, the fruits of this transition won't be seen next season, but 3, 5, even 10 years from now. The casual fan might not notice it just yet, but the attentive one, the one who follows every behind-the-scenes detail, can already sense the shift. Manchester City is not just preparing for the 2025-26 season. It is, in truth, paving the way for a dynasty. And perhaps, in a few years' time, when we look back and see where it all began, we'll remember this name, Mohamedou Sangar, not as the kid from PSG, but as the spark that ignited a new era. If you've made it this far, it's because you truly breathe football, and you know that the game isn't decided only in those 90 minutes. It starts much earlier, behind the scenes, in training, in the silent decisions that shape a club's future. And if you also believe that Manchester City is preparing something big, then hit that like button right now. It really helps support our work and tells YouTube that this content deserves to reach more fans like you. And of course, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss a single update, transfer bombshell, or tactical insight that could change the course of the season. Here, you'll always find serious, direct, and engaging content about what really matters in football, what happens behind the curtain. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.